Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I am your host, Mark Hill, and my two great co hosts are along with me as well, Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How are we doing today, guys?
Very good. How are
Oh
you?
man, really good, really good.
All right. So we had some very interesting games last week. We had a couple overtime games. We had some upsets. We had a huge upset. You know, the host, two of the three are happy and giddy. It's we're going to run through all of those, but I can say that all those games
In
were there.
addition,
There was a
in
lot.
addition to
Go
everything you
ahead.
said, you know, in addition to everything you said, we played 8 other games.
Yes. no, 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 there was some good ones in there. You know, there were some good games. Yeah, I got my guys off that high right now, so they got to get them. They have to get themselves prepped up. I don't want to end up. Hate to pick on them. I don't want to be like LA and still be punch drunk a week later or a season later. So, all right. So, if you guys are ready, we are going to go ahead and jump right into this. First game that we have on the list is Pittsburgh hosting the New York Jets. And the Jets, they're the Jets. What can we say? They do what they do. They ended up walking with this one 29-16. We're going to start this show off this week with Dean.
Yeah, the Steelers played tough in this game, and I said early in the season they were the best 0-4 team, and they played tough. And I'm really surprised that they ran the ball total of 6 times for -3 yards. That's quite an interesting stat. They really focused in the passing game. They didn't run the ball very much. But, the Jets are the Jets. They knew who they were playing going into this. The Jets ran the ball well, and they passed the ball well, as they normally do. Play solid, balanced offense, good defense, and they come out 13 points ahead in the score.
All right. Mitch.
Well, the formula that Pittsburgh used to win 4 of their last 5 games, playing extremely tough defense, strong, solid special teams, control the ball. Obviously, Coach Lee decided to throw all that out the window and go complete opposite this week. And it did not turn out so well. Like Dean, I was a little surprised, well, a lot surprised that there were only 6 rushing attempts by Pittsburgh, and 4 of them were from the quarterback. I think Coach Lee may have learned a lesson this week because it doesn't pay off very often to stray away from your strengths and your identity. So, congratulations to the Jets.
So basically, keep trudging through. I thought personally that they were trying to mix it up to try to throw a wrinkle in it, but maybe they might have tweaked it a little bit too much. So I understand what they were trying to do, but you put a little bit too much spice in there and kind of overcooked your food this time. So next game we have Chicago hosting New England, and Chicago walked away with a 34-6 victory. Mitch.
Well, Darnold came back and kind of got himself back on track. He winning player of the game here, throwing for 278 and 2 touchdowns. He had been off a little bit recently, so I'm sure that Coach Tucker is happy to have Darnold maybe back on track. But really, the story of this game was the Chicago defense picking off Finley 3 times in the game, really just not allowing New England to do anything either through the air or on the ground. So, congratulations to Chicago.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, Finley is below 50% in his passing completion, and I'm looking at the receiving numbers, and a few of Chicago's wide receivers put up some big plays, and the scoreboard reflects it, and the stats reflected this was a solid offensive performance by the Cardinals, one of the best offensive teams in the league, and they played great defense. They held New England to 6 points. I believe that was a pair of field goals, if I have it right. Yes, they held New England to just two field goals, and other than maybe one other game where two field goals could have won the game, generally two field goals is not going to win a game in this league.
Definitely. Not at all. Not even close. So, next game, moving on to Anaheim and Jacksonville. I think it was mentioned that this was the toilet bowl. You guys kind of kind of fill me in on what is going on with these two teams. As Anaheim walked away with a 35-14 victory on this one. Dean.
Yeah, this was kind of a, I guess it's kind of a surprise, and it looked like Anaheim was just not, I won't say mailing it in, but they just were struggling this season and did seem to beat hardly anyone. I believe they had one win going into this game. But look who made a comeback. Joshua Dobbs, completing 31 of 39. A lot of apparently short passes because 223 yards. But he completed 79% of his passes, and it was effective because he threw 4 touchdown passes that won the game. Joshua Dobbs rises to the challenge.
Mitch.
Yeah, the battle of the two one-win teams. I actually thought Jacksonville would pull this one out, but they got blown out instead. And with Josh Dobbs having a solid game, again, I think this is 2 out of the last 3 weeks he's won Player of the Game for Anaheim or something like that. It makes me think. Maybe we should do a segment on the show, Mark, of where are they now, former Dean quarterbacks. So I think that might be something to look at, thinking of Joshua Dobbs's campaign here in this game. But anyway, we can talk about that after the show. But nice game there for Anaheim.
That would be kind of interesting to see where are they now because, yeah, he pretty much was on a quarterback producing mill lately, like a puppy mill, just pumping out quarterbacks. Okay, had him here. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. You get one of my quarterbacks, and you get one of my quarterbacks, and you get one of my quarterbacks.
Yeah, and don't be like James and talk trash about Jalen Hurts. I mean, he was on my roster. He was a backup, but I never started and never played him in a game. So we don't know whether he would have been successful or not successful on my team. But I mean, that doesn't really count. We're talking about people that actually played for my team for a period of time and then ultimately went somewhere else. Not someone who just occupied a roster spot. Because otherwise, all of our teams have players that occupied roster spots and went somewhere else. So that's not really the issue.
Yeah, how many quarterbacks that came off of your team is still floating out there?
There's a handful. I mean, I think Kaiser started maybe 4 or 5 games when I had him when I signed him as a free agent, then let him go at the end of the season. Then Steve started him. Joshua Dobbs led the league in fumbles, which made him a liability, so I released him, and he ended up in Carolina, which then became Anaheim. Those are the notable ones. I don't know if there's Justin Fields, who hasn't really succeeded anywhere else since then. He played a couple games in Chicago, but then went back on the bench when Darnold came. So,
okay. Next game, which is our first overtime game of this week, we have Detroit hosting Indianapolis. Pretty good game coming down towards the end, and Indianapolis walked away with a 23-20 win. We're going to start with you, Dean.
yeah, this game was pretty even statistically. It went into overtime. I mean, both teams are tied at 20 points. And you can even look and see that Detroit was better in the third down efficiency, but at the end, it was still tied at 20 points, and Indianapolis scored the field goal to win it in overtime. And I think it was an important win for them. They needed that win, perhaps. Well, I mean, both teams certainly needed the win, but I think this win will definitely be key for Indianapolis trying to stay in the race in the AFC.
All right, Mitch.
Well, congratulations to Jordan Love. Nice game there, 295 and a touchdown, leading the way there for Indy. Old J.J. Taylor had a solid game as well. Only 7 carries with 8.1 yards a pop. But I'm wondering though for Detroit, do we have a budding quarterback controversy? Because you look at the stat lines of this game and Ayler's, 17 of 30 for 166 and a touchdown. Ritter, 19 of 26 for 157 and a touchdown. Much higher completion percentage than Ayler's. So I wonder if we have a controversy brewing in Detroit out there. I guess we'll see in the coming weeks as the Lions try to make a playoff run.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think I missed Mitch's take on the Anaheim game. I think I did.
No, you got
Okay,
it.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, you got it.
We're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, we're good, man.
We're good. Okay, I'm trying to
Yeah.
multitask. You know I can't. You know I don't multitask
Oh,
well.
that's all right. You're getting your DraftKings lineup set up for tonight. I
Not so
know.
loud. Not so loud.
Uh,
All right. Next game that we have, L.A. against Las Vegas. Vegas was hosting this game, and Los Angeles woke up, I guess you could say, from their stupor to show up this week, and they ended up taking this game 30-23. Mitch.
well, first of all, I don't know what stupor you're talking about with Los Angeles, being that they have now won 4 games in a row. So I think they have awakened from their post Super Bowl hangover,
I still like picking
and are
on them. I
definitely
like picking on
and
them.
are definitely on the track to try to track me down in the West. So LA, I see you out there. But as far as this game goes, interesting that Mitch Trubisky for the Raiders won. I think this is his second player of the game in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, both times in losses. And even though, got a couple of touchdowns and, solid little completion percentage, only average about 4.4 yards per pass. And so, that's going to keep you out of the end zone many times, unless you just control the ball for 45 minutes, which they did not. But LA, 4 in a row. I got my eye on you, man. I see you in the rearview mirror. So, anyway, Dean, what do you think?
Yeah, I remember watching this game, and the Chargers had built up, I think, an 11-point lead. And then at that point, the Raiders started playing some solid defense, and they scored on a couple of drives and tied the game at 23 points. And I remember thinking at this point, and there might have been like 5 or 6 minutes on the clock left. I remember thinking, I'm not sure which team is going to score next, but the team that does is probably going to win the game. And it turned out it was the Chargers that scored that last touchdown to go ahead, and that decided the game. But this game could have potentially gone either way. I mean, the momentum kind of shifted back and forth in the game, but if it had been the Raiders instead scoring that last score, they might have won. But it turns out they didn't move the ball and punted back to Los Angeles, who then moved the ball downfield and scored that game-winning touchdown. But it's definitely an important win for the Chargers trying to get back to postseason this season and have a chance of defending the Super Bowl. And they certainly want to, if possible, catch the Chiefs and maybe win the division rather than get in as a wild card again, as they did last season. But, they went to the Super Bowl from that wild card spot. So, they could very well do it again.
Next game we have, very good game. I think coming down to the end, but see what you guys have to take on it. New York Giants hosting Minnesota. That's Mitch's team riding that Minnesota train. But this particular week, Giants took that game 30-21. Dean.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about riding that train, I think of that song by the Grateful Dead where they say, riding that train high on cocaine. Um, I think this has been a risky proposition to be riding the Minnesota train. On the other hand, I'm going to stay on the New York Giants train. They won this game, solid win. I predicted it last week. I said the Giants are going to win, and it might have seemed to be an upset. I believe Minnesota was favored by Rich's Sportsbook, but the Giants got the job done. They they upset the Vikings, and they're still in contention for a playoff spot from the NFC.
All right, Mitch.
Well, I expected the defense for Minnesota to play better. Obviously, they had were leading the league in points allowed, or at least points allowed coming into the game. So I was a little surprised that they're the 30 points up there, but Saquon Barkley just went nuts, 120 yards rushing out there for New York and a touchdown. Heck, you kind of would think maybe he would have won player of the game over Jones. I guess those two touchdown passes, though, gave Jones the nod. But you can't talk quarterback play without talking about another former Dean quarterback, Lamar Jackson, 314 yards, 74% completion, two touchdowns. Um, but did have a turnover, so that was the blemish there on Jackson. But if Jackson can keep playing like that and that Minnesota defense play like they normally do not get off the Minnesota purple bandwagon here. So that's my
That's
thought.
that's a lot of F's. Like the former Dean quarterbacks, he's a flash of the pan. He'll have a good game once in a while, and they'll say, "Oh, what a mistake it was to let him go." But then you see how many times he completes 47% of the passes and loses the game, and we somehow forget about that. So keep that in mind for balance sake.
Uh,
All right,
Fair
again,
and balanced. That's the kind of show Mark runs here. Fair and balanced.
they're fair and
That's right.
balanced. I'm still saying that Dean is having instead of a puppy mill, it's a quarterback mill. I mean, they're all over the landscape. So next game we have, as we are coming down towards the end of this, we have New Orleans hosting San Francisco. New Orleans put the hammer down this time and put up a 28-13 victory. Mitch.
Well, the Saints that we've all grown to know and love the last season and a half or so showed back up this week. Obviously winning by double digits there over the 49ers. Big game there on the ground for old Gus Edwards, four rushing touchdowns on 17 carries. So pretty efficient as far as that goes for him. Thorson had a horrible game, but hey, who cares, right? Because Edwards went nuts and it really took over the game. That Saints defense just bottled up a Burrow, picking him off three times. So solid game, passing game for both teams, kind of shoddy, but that ground game looked really nice for old Coach Perez.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think what we're seeing here is the Saints beat the 49ers playing the kind of ball that generally Charlie wants his team playing. 163 yards of rushing and almost 35 minutes time of possession. They really controlled this game and ended up winning by 15 points. This is a solid win by the Saints. Does this give us an indication of where the 49ers are headed in the second half of the season? Are they going to look promising in the first half and then kind of fade away a bit? I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, that has been kind of the MO in recent years for the 49ers. So we'll see. I think we heard reports that their front office might be on a cruise coming up. So we'll see how that impacts play on the field.
Okay. Coming down to the last two games of this. And now that's something that impacts the all three of us. The first one up, it is the Chiefs Falcons Bowl. The Falcons was wearing decked out in black. If you're into a defensive type game, this one is for you. Low scoring, bunch of field goals. Uh, as you went into the normal 60 minutes, but it had to take some extra time. It led to a walk-off kickoff, and on this one, Kansas City ended up walking away with a 15-9 win. We're going to start with the winning coach. We're going to start off with you on this one, Mitch.
All right. Well, as I've said, uh, it was definitely a wild, crazy game filled with miraculous plays, goal line stands, walk-off kickoffs, interceptions, etc. But very fun game if you were a fan, particularly of defensive scheming out there. Neither team could really get a good rhythm on offense. And then when we did, the other team usually made a big play. I have to admit, when we went to overtime and that kickoff, went right in the middle of the field, I'm thinking, all right, well, they'll tackle him at the 20. That's usually what happens. And then suddenly the Hallelujah chorus started playing, and the Red Sea parted, and there goes Cooper Cup right up the middle of the field. And let's just say whatever what's the earthquake meter? I can't remember what you call that, but anyway, I think it was probably rattling around here in my vicinity. So fun game, good game, Dean, and definitely one that I'm sure we'll talk about for a while.
All right,
Yeah.
Dean.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did both of these teams decide to just not really play offense, or was it just very solid defensive play? But whatever it is, it led to a low scoring. And you know, as I watched the game, I remember I had started watching the game, and I saw the email come in and saying that there was going to be a surprising end, and I didn't know whether which I would lose. I didn't fast forward. I'd still watch the rest of the game. But I got near the end, I kind of cheated a bit, and I looked at the time that was left in the video, and I thought, is this going to go into overtime? There isn't time for overtime. So something bizarre must really happen. Like on the last play, is it going to be like a pick for six on the last play of regulation? And sure enough, it went into overtime and then the kickoff return. I will note, however, that what sent this game to overtime is my rookie defensive tackle that I signed as a free agent sacked Baker Mayfield on a tying pass, which the game records as a rushing intent, but nonetheless, it was a sack that took the Chiefs offense out of field goal range and unable to score, that led to the game going into overtime.
Yeah, I watched that one all the way through, and as I was watching, I'm like, okay, this is first thing that surprised me was I thought there was going to be a lot more scoring. So again, defensive minded people probably love this one. And I saw that kickoff, and I'm watching him come in and breaking out. I'm like, no, this isn't happening. Then I'm thinking, okay, I've seen this before. Maybe it's going to get called back. Maybe there's going to be a penalty, but nope. Blew the whistle, touchdown, game over. I'm like, wow, that was. It's not too often you see a walk-off touchdown, and that was definitely one of them. And I can say that was a great game. It's one of those games where it's like, man, you don't want it to end, but it has to, and just a good game all around from a defensive perspective. So hats off to both of you
I tell
guys.
you, I thought the same thing, Mark. I'm sitting there and waiting for it. It's going to say legal block. There's no way. It's going to be legal block. And then it goes end of game. I'm like,
that was because usually on something like that, you're expecting wait for the whistle, it's going to come back.
Especially when the kickoff, they kick it down the middle of the field and the player runs straight up the middle. It's like, okay, that's going to get tackled at the 20. And then all of a sudden, everybody just moves out of the way. I'm thinking, that's coming back. That's coming back.
Yep, part the Red Sea. Oh, he made it. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, final game, and this was a lot of chatter, a lot of haterade being passed around. Quarterback going on Twitter talking about wanting to bring the Jets in or go after the Jets. It's like, pump your brakes, kid. Have a taco. You have Washington hosting Seattle. I think it was like a 13 and a half dog for the Hawks. I think this was one of the most watched games out there once the chatter started. And Seattle managed to pull a David and Goliath and sneak away with a 24-21 win. Dean.
Yeah, this is definitely a solid win for the Seahawks and a big upset. I suspected, and I think I said last week that Seattle would play Washington tough, but I didn't expect an upset necessarily. But this is a solid win, and the Redskins are usually very tough to beat. But this is a big boost for the Seahawks in their effort to become one of those 4-6 teams to make the playoffs that we're going to be discussing in the second segment of the show.
All right, Mitch, what you got?
Well, I think I might have mentioned this before, but I think if we go back and we look at the defensive backs on the field for Washington there on that last touchdown play, I think we might find their hidden clutch rating must be pretty low because there was nobody standing with that receiver. Looked like he was. I thought it was a punt return. Looked like he was trying to fair catch a punt when he caught that thing. But I am sure that Washington will adjust an item or two for future games. Not a big hit for Washington, but obviously a big win for Seattle. One that I did not predict happening, but yeah, well, what do I know? So congratulations, Mark. Nice win.
Thank you. So, for me, I think that it was something that I tried to prep for. And one of the things that I mentioned to you guys is I usually end up losing a lot of games in the fourth, under a minute. And I figured, okay, here we go again. When they scored at the end, I'm like, all right, same song, different verse, and then come back and be like, uh-oh, wait a minute. Looks like we got something that's coming back and, getting some motion going over here and scored. And I'm sure probably some of you guys probably heard some screaming going on, which basically was me celebrating over that win. But yes, I have to agree. Washington is a tough team to play. Um, it's a tall order, but hey, any like they say, instead of any given Sunday, any given Saturday, it can happen. Upsets can happen. So, um, hats off to a good game for that one, and for all the games for this past week. So, um, congratulations to those wins, and for the other coaches, you just got to keep plugging away. So as we move into the second segment, one thing that Dean mentioned, we're going to talk about some of the 4-6 teams out there. I believe we also have it mentioned on the forum which 4-6 team has the possibility of going into the playoffs. So, we can talk a little bit about the 5-5s, but we really want to take a look at the 4-6s. So, we're going to go to each individual co-host and have them start. So, I'm going to get their commentary. I'm going to start with Mitch on this. So,
Yeah.
what do you see from those 4-6 teams?
Well, I see teams that definitely are in the hunt. I think that's why I posted that poll because even though they might be under 500, I definitely feel that one, if not multiple teams out of that group, have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs based on tiebreakers, upcoming schedule, etc. So when I look at it, and I think about particularly when I think about tiebreakers, you got Atlanta and you've got Detroit, sitting there both at 4-6. Um, I could see, Detroit, obviously finishing out, around 500 or close to it. I could see Atlanta, they got a tough stretch here these next couple of weeks, but if Detroit and Atlanta end up tied, there at the end. Atlanta's already beat Detroit twice, and so I'd have to give the edge to Atlanta on that part. But I think when you look at the other team that I believe is going to have a real good chance of making the playoffs probably would be Pittsburgh. Um, when you look at the AFC and you think about, you've got Minnesota and you've got Indy, you got New England there. You got basically three of our or two of our newer coaches or three of our newer coaches there in that mix, and so I think even though they're not a 4-6 team, I have a feeling that Minnesota might is probably going to get that fourth bid or fourth seed, but I think Pittsburgh has a chance to give them a push, depending on how a few games go for them. So that's my thoughts, Mark.
All right.
I think if Seattle plays the way they did against the Redskins, they definitely have a chance. And I think Pittsburgh definitely has a chance. They're the only AFC team of these four. I think the challenge for the Falcons is playing Chicago this weekend, then the 49ers, and then finishing the season with two games against the Giants and two games against Washington. That's going to be tough. And I think the one thing that I kind of agree with in looking at the poll numbers on this poll, Detroit probably has the least chance of the four, but they could prove us wrong. But given everything, I think one of the other three teams has a better chance than Detroit. I would say, in my opinion, the most likely of the four to make postseason, despite the 4-6 start, will be the Steelers if it happens.
Now, one thing I'm looking at as I look at the scheduling from the 4 and 6 teams, Mitch mentioned Indy and Pittsburgh. Seattle plays both of those teams in week 15 and week 16. Play Detroit in week 12. So, as you was mentioning that, hey, look, Seattle can do something there, could make some noise, and I think we had discussed before or a while back that, or recently that with the AFC side, um, that one team can actually do some major damage with Pittsburgh, Vegas, um, and Indy all in that same boat. But they're Indy sitting at 5-5, so definitely can make some noise out there. I think that overall. I think the two wild cards are from the AFC side is probably going to come from the West. Well, the only one that's out there is Pittsburgh, sitting at 4 and 6. From the NFC side, I like to say Seattle's going to be in there, and I do believe. No offense to them, I think Detroit out of the 4 and 6 teams, Detroit's probably on the outside looking in. But by looking at their schedule, if you can take a look at their schedule at the end, they have some tough games coming up, and I know Atlanta has some tough games coming up as well. So, um, it's just you got to be able to muscle through and power through all of those. So, let's see, Detroit as they finish theirs up, they have they have the Giants, Seattle, Washington, Chicago, and then they finish up with Pittsburgh and Anaheim. So they have a little tough stretch going up there coming up. Atlanta, let's see, Atlanta's final part. You have Chicago, Frisco, New York, Washington, New York again, and Washington. So you definitely, you got Washington twice and Chicago. So yeah, that's a rough way to go. Would you agree?
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's important that coaches realize that even though we're talking about the 4-6 teams, I don't think we're saying, or at least I'm not saying that one of these teams will definitely make the playoffs, because we do have several teams that are 5-5 that they'd have to leap. But when we look at these 4-6 teams, I think Atlanta and Pittsburgh would be the ones most likely to get in, particularly Pittsburgh. So just for the record.
All right. So I think we
Was there
put.
any reason why you put the four teams in the order that you did in the poll?
I just went down the list on the standings from AFC to NFC.
Okay,
So
you just plugged them in. Okay.
yeah, yeah, no hidden messages.
No favoritism on that one. All right.
I just went down the list on the standings page at the time.
All right. So if you guys haven't voted on that forum, go ahead and take a look at that. So, all right, as we are moving on, putting a bow on that one, we're going to move over to the last segment, which is the Week 11 games. As you guys know, we each have our own lead pipe block for this week. We're going to go ahead and get those down. So as we come up to that, um, the sporting books has their own bids out there. We do have a pick'em game out there. Um, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what our take is on these games. So first up, we have Indianapolis hosting Jacksonville. They are giving Jacksonville 7.5. We're going to start with you on this one, Mitch.
Well, this is a game where Indianapolis has a chance to, really prove themselves as a true contender. 5-5 team battling for the playoffs against a 1-9 team that is basically battling to give the Jets the first pick in the draft. So, Indy, you better win this one. So I'm going to take Indy in this matchup, Mark.
All right, Dean.
Yes, I think Indianapolis will prove that they are a serious player in this race, and I think they will win and cover that spread and show the league that they're here to compete for a spot in postseason.
All right. I'm just going to, as usual, keep it simple. I think the Colts are going to keep motoring along, and I'm picking Indy on this one. Next game, we have KC and New England. New England's doing the hosting. They are giving Kansas City 8.5. Dean.
Yes, I think that the Chiefs will continue to struggle on offense, and the Patriots have been pretty solid on offense. But I think the key difference here will be the Chiefs are going to play stronger defense than the Patriots will, and the Chiefs are going to win this game, but they will not cover the spread.
Okay. Mitch.
Well, rarely do I cover a spread, but as long as I win, I don't care, right? But this is a nice little rematch between myself and Mox from the wild card round of last year's playoffs. So, I don't know how much revenge is on Mox's mind versus just trying to get back into the playoffs this season. But I expect him to be ready and play tough, and I'm going to take, obviously, I'll pick myself because I'm not Pete Rose, but, I think it'll be a tough game.
All right. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I have to agree with Dean. I'm going to go with Kansas City, but I don't think they're going to cover the spread. It's going to be a little bit closer than that. So that's going to be my selection. I'm picking KC. Next game, we have Minnesota. This is our pick'em game, our only one this week. We have Minnesota hosting LA. Everybody wants to know, is Mitch still on that bandwagon, that purple people eater bandwagon or not? So we're going to start with you, Mitch.
Absolutely, I am. In fact, everyone, you can go to the bank, you can get that second mortgage, pay off some debts on those high variable interest rates. Take the purple people eaters to win this game, and give themselves a solid shot at in this playoff hunt. So, lead pipe lock for me there.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are going to cool off a bit here, and I think Minnesota is going to win the game.
All right, I will keep it quick and simple as Dean did. I am picking Minnesota as well. So all three of us are on that bandwagon this week. So moving on, we have Seattle, hopefully coming off of that high, hosting Las Vegas. Seattle has a 3.5-point spread. We're going to start with you, Dean.
Yeah, I think Las Vegas will play this game tough. I think they're still working in their offense, but we see what the Seahawks can do, and I think the Seahawks will win and cover the spread. It's not much of a spread, I think we'll see a Seattle win here, and Seattle will be continuing their quest to become one of those 4-6 teams that makes it into postseason.
All right. Mitch.
Well, you'll be shocked and surprised, but I'm actually taking the Seahawks. I think you'll find a way to pull this thing out. So I'm taking you on this.
All right. I will keep it simple. Go Hawks. Moving on. Next game we have San Francisco hosting Pittsburgh, and they are giving the 49ers 4.5. Mitch.
Well, Pittsburgh has a chance at the playoffs. They got to win this game, kind of like Indy. Not quite, obviously, the opponent is going to be tougher than Indy that is having to play. But with management maybe being away from the office for a couple of weeks, this gives Pittsburgh an opportunity to get some wins against the team they might not be expected to win. So I'm going with Pittsburgh.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, I agree. Pittsburgh is going to play tough, and I think they're going to get back to running offense the way they do, which literally means running, and control the game and control the clock against the 49ers. I see a Steelers win here.
All right. I am going to ride along with you guys as well. I'm looking at picking Pittsburgh to win, and they're going to be going in for the upset. So, minor upset, but an upset nonetheless. So, next game we have the New York Jets hosting the Washington Redskins. They are giving the Jets 6.5. Dean.
Yeah, I say here, if you didn't spend all your money betting on the Vikings winning that game, put a strong bet on this one. And yes, I'm calling for the upset. It is a lead pipe lock. The Redskins are going to upset the Jets in this game.
Ooh. Okay. Mitch.
Well, I don't think it's going to be an upset, but I think Jerry will definitely adjust from that heartbreaking loss last week and keep it closer than the experts think. But I'm going to go with the Jets to win this one.
Okay. So I am going to do something that we have never had on the show before. This is going to be a double lead pipe lock on the same game. I definitely believe that the Jets are going to do what they normally do, but I am looking for the upset as well, and I think the Redskins are going to take a look at what happened last week, make some corrections, add a little more spice to it, and I'm looking at the Redskins to take this in an upset. So again, first time we have a double lead pipe lock on the same game, on the same team. So book it. If you have any pennies left from betting with on Mitch and on Dean, anything left, put it on that game. Definitely it's going to be a good one. I do believe it's going to be an upset. Next game we have Chicago hosting Atlanta. They are giving Chicago 13.5. Mitch.
Well, I've put a poll out there on the forum on this game. With Chicago playing Atlanta and all the talk in the offseason about that Atlanta trade to Chicago, sending Justin Fields to the Cardinals. It might be interesting television if Justin Fields were happen to start this game. And 88% of respondents have agreed on that and have said that Justin Fields should start this game. But, obviously Coach Tucker has final say on that. But regardless who plays quarterback, I think Chicago is going to win this game, but I think Atlanta will keep it a little closer than what the experts think.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, just imagine if you're Coach Tucker and you start Justin Fields for the benefit of that, and then he comes into the game and throws 3 interceptions and loses the game. You imagine how much regret that you would have for doing that I just don't see that happening. That would be, I don't think, I don't think Coach Tucker is in the business of shooting himself in the foot and winning games. He wins a lot of games and does it by putting his best lineup on the field. But I'm seeing the possibility of an upset here. That 13.5 spread, I think, will be overcome by about 14.5 points.
All right. Now I see. I like being on going for those underdogs, and this one's going to be a tall order as well. But this week, I think Chicago is just going to have a little bit more in the tank. Um, I do not believe I do predict Chicago to win, but I think that spread is bogus. It's going to be a much tighter game. Atlanta will come in prepared, so Chicago win, but barely, but barely. Next game we have, as we're coming down to the final two, we have Detroit hosting the New York Giants. They are giving the Giants 3.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think the Giants are going to continue their march toward the playoffs, and I see the Giants winning this one and covering, and playing a solid game and getting one game closer.
All right, Mitch.
I don't know. I kind of get this gut feeling that Detroit's going to pull one out here and going to throw a wrinkle into this playoff run. So I'm going to go with the Lions.
All right. Um, I'm looking at both of this. I mean, it's close to being a pick'em game with a 3.5. But I think I'm gonna go with I'm going with the Giants on this one. I think the Giants are gonna have a little bit more in there, and they're gonna pull out that win, and they're gonna. Um, I think that spread should be a little bit larger, not by much, maybe 6. So taking the Giants on this one. Last game that we have on our list for this week, we have Anaheim hosting the Saints. They are giving the Saints 9.5. Which Anaheim team is going to show up, Mitch?
The one that's going to lose and let the New Orleans cover the spread. I think New Orleans they will have a stinker game, here and there, but I think they will definitely have enough to beat Anaheim and keep their playoff hopes alive. So I'm taking the Saints.
All right, Dean.
Yes, I think the Anaheim team that's going to show up here is going to be the one where Joshua Dobbs wins Player of the Week again, has a solid performance. I'm predicting the upset. It's going to be a Rams win.
All right, I am going to go with Coach Santos. I'm going with the Saints on this one, and I think it's not a stretch that they're going to cover that spread. I do believe that they'll cover the spread and take the victory on that one. So, all right, so we've gone through it all, and we're wrapping this up. Some good games out there look like we're going to see this week. Probably some upsets out there as well. So hopefully, you guys will enjoy the games coming up. And as we come to end this show, hey, we are under an hour, guys. So we are moving right along here. So as we come to wrap this up, any final words you have over there, Dean?
I guess we showed that we can do this show just a little bit more efficiently this time around. So I would say good luck to everyone in their games this weekend and attempting to get one step closer to making a postseason appearance, as we still have most of our teams still mathematically in contention, at least.
Yep, I think it'll be shaken out. I think as each week goes by, that picture is gonna get tighter and tighter, and we'll know exactly what's going on. Mitch, any final words for you? Take us home.
Yeah, definitely. These next 2 weeks are going to really set up who are the contenders and who are the pretenders as we get ready to go into that final 4-week stretch of the season. So, looking forward to seeing how these things pan out. the way the games have gone this year, who knows what's going to happen this week? So that being said, there's only one thing left to do, y'all. Let's get it.
And I also noticed when I made that comment, I did a Captain Obvious. So, oh well.
Well, that is your middle name.
Yeah. Have fun.